Hello and welcome back to the Roxo Test Kitchen. I am currently reconstituting some bouillon, these little blocks here, because a couple episodes ago we uncovered the fact that more than likely all this expensive broth that we're buying is just reconstituted this stuff, one of these per cup. So I'm just mixing it up right now. Be right with you. All right, that'll do it. So does not look exactly like the stuff I would have paid probably $2-3 for in the store and had a carton that I had to dispose of and a little bit of plastic on it, right? But all the waste I have is just this little metal foil. Anywho, the purpose of our Roxo Test Kitchen is to help people make a lower carb kind of version of some of our favorite foods. If you're new to our channel, I'm Dr. Sam Graber. This is my channel for all things low carb, health, women's health, menopause. We talk about the things we just don't talk about. But also we've started, if I can speak, started a side project utilizing some recipes that are go-tos for us, but also some that are new, like the one we're doing today. We have Thai coconut chicken soup, and I'm literally drooling because it sounds so good. And I've got all my ingredients, and one of those is the broth reconstituted. So I warmed up the water and then put the bouillon in there. You can see we still got a little bit in there. And then I've been breaking it up with this whisk, and we'll be using that for our recipe today. All right, so let us get started. We're going to begin. First, I'm gonna get these guys here. We're gonna put some coconut oil on heat. We need 2 tablespoons. I'll meet you on over here. All right. Now, if you're new to our channel, like I say, we are trying to make some of our favorite recipes as well as some new ones that just sound amazing. Make those a more low carb version. One thing I'm real keen on in my coaching practice, we'll call it practice. Coaching practice is helping people lower their carbohydrate intake so that they can improve their body's relationship with insulin. I know, a lot of nerdy talk, but that's what you're going to get here every once in a while, because I like to throw down some nerd knowledge every so often. And if you're watching, you're going to get to partake in some of that. All right, let's get this out of the way. One really great thing about using coconut oil, this is something I use every day for my skin and my hair. You just put it right on like that. What do you know? Twofer. Okay, so now that that's warming up for us, we're going to chop up our onions. Now, spring onions / scallions, same thing. I'm going to put that there for our for a little later when we have our. Let's see if she can do this and talk. No. Okay, so we're using our scallions here, or our green onions, and the leftovers or the parts we're cutting off are going to go into our compost pile. So we want to separate out the whites from the greens today, mostly because the greens will be used for garnish. Okay. Was there? Okay. And get the rest of these gals. We'll do a couple big chunky ones and some thinner ones. You can be as artistic as you want. That's the fun part about cooking at home. And try out different things. So we'll put these into this one for later for our garnishes. Okay, we need the recipe. By the way, the recipe is from Keto Mojo, which is a brand that I absolutely love for helping check your ketones. They also have a really great, very vast repertoire of recipes that I always enjoy. And if you would like, you are absolutely encouraged to join our recipe share, where every time we do one of these recipes, we share the PDF so that you can print it out yourself. If you're old school like moi and you like to work from a piece of paper, you can also just download it and look at it on your phone, which makes it super accessible. All right, so let's get some more of these out so I can just have these dry. There we go. We'll put those in. Actually, I'll just put these on the side. Sometimes you don't have everything you need at your hands, but that's okay. We improvise. And here. Okay, I hear the coconut oil popping in the background. Gotta love it. Neat thing about coconut oil, because it is solid at room temperature, it is a very stable kind of oil to use in your cooking. And as I mentioned, you can also use it for your skincare, your hair care. It does a great job of getting really sticky things off of items. It's pretty versatile. All right, so let's put that there. Let's bring in the whites of our onion. Okay, beep, beep. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down just a little bit. Okay, take that off. I'm gonna get out these. The recipe calls for just one small red pepper, but I really love these because you can get like all these little tiny ones. They're great for using as a crudité or something if you have a nice dip that you're enjoying, or you can stuff them like little mini ones and like call them like poppers basically. But I like the variety of colors. So instead of red, we're gonna do all three of the ones, the orange, the yellow, and the red. You wanna seed those. And we'll bring this up here. And I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, so I'm just cutting these into strips. Nice here. I find that if I put the smooth side down and cut from the more textured side, a little easier to cut. That's a trick of the trade. All right, so we're gonna take this over. I'm actually gonna leave a couple of each for the garnish. They'll be pretty. And we eat with our eyes first, as they say. Grab a couple of each. Here we go. All right, to the stove. Beep, beep. All right, so we're going to stir these together and let them kind of soften up a bit. All right, so after putting in our peppers, we're going to add some ginger, some garlic, and our red curry. Let's see, how much of the garlic powder? 1.5 teaspoons. Can she do it? Here we go. 1 teaspoon, and then we're going to do half by measuring out 2/4 teaspoons. 1, and I did a little over, but I don't mind some garlic. There are no vampires in this house. All right, there's that. Oh man, it already smells so good. That's another thing is, as you're cooking, enjoy the aroma and really see how if you can start differentiating each of the different scents. It's kind of fun. It's amazing how different like a garlic will be when it's heated up versus when it's room temperature or even just in powder form. Same with the next ingredient, which is our ginger. Now you can grate your own ginger, absolutely, by all means, but it's really handy to use this ginger paste. So this calls for 6 teaspoons, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm gonna double check. Yep, 6 teaspoons. One of the cool things here, it's a 1-for-1. So teaspoons, we've got 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I'm gonna make 2 tablespoons here. Look how easy that is. 1 and 2. And because we had the coconut oil in it earlier, makes this stuff come out real easy. Excellent. And now the last ingredient here, this one was a tricky one. So when I was buying it, I found a couple different curry sauces, and then I found this red curry paste. So of course I looked up on the Google machine how to get a sauce from a paste, and it turns out you just add a little bit of stock. So that's why I pre-mixed that chicken stock for us, because I'm going to add a little bit of that to then dilute some of this curry paste. So that I can show you well, and hopefully, actually I'll do it over here, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. let's grab a little of this. And we needed 2 tablespoons of the curry sauce. So I am going to add 1 tablespoon of the curry paste. Let me find a clean one of these. We'll do from the half tablespooner. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon here, and I'm gonna dilute it with that freshly made chicken stock. And one thing I've learned about the different colors of curry, it's not just for pretty, it's for spice. The red curry can be a little bit hotter than, say, the green curry. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we've got our stock. And I'm going to go all fancy and use a ladle here. So this container over here, 4 cups of water, and I just reconstituted it, made the water, warmed up the water, added the 4 blocks there, and then just gave it time to break down. So let's give ourselves about that much to constitute this. And then let's see how that looks. Voila, we have made a curry sauce. All right. I love adapting and making things work for us. No sense going and buying a bunch of things you don't need. This way we can make our own curry sauce whenever we want. Which, man, smelling this, I'm thinking we're gonna do that a lot more often. Okay, let's see. Just want that medium. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit. That seems to be cooking rather quickly. All right. So next, all right. Next, we're gonna add a little bit more of that chicken broth. I'm gonna let that just simmer for just another second. And then we're gonna reduce it to a full simmer and cook uncovered for 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay. What I've learned from pouring these is don't leave it outside of the pot. Start pouring over it so that you don't make a big old mess. Oh, that actually poured rather easily. Seems when I finally got my acting gear, I don't need to be as attentive. There we go. I'm gonna let that boil. So I'm gonna turn that up. And then once it boils, we will cook it uncovered on simmer for 20 minutes. All right, so we have just a chicken thigh that was frozen, so I've gone ahead and thawed that out. And these are bone-in, skin-on, as you can see. So I'm just gonna take this skin off because the recipe calls for skinless, or yeah, skinless and boneless. So you can find that this is a lot cheaper to buy it if it still has the skin on and the bone in. So we're gonna cook it with the bone in, and then we'll just peel it off from that. So we got 1. We needed 8 ounces, but you know my rule. Why do it just a little when you can do with a little more, especially with the protein. So I'm gonna cook that a little bit more. I would gather each of these. Now, of course, I could measure it and weigh it, but my experience is telling me each one of these is probably about 4 ounces. So I'm gonna do 2 for sure. And I'm gonna add that 3rd one in just because I'm feeling like we always need more protein. Woo! Now remember, this stuff has icky stuff to it. So don't let it get smooshy all over the place. And I'm going to wash my hands very well after doing this. You can absolutely use gloves if you would like. All right, a little bit more. Get all this off. Now you can save these and cook them up in your air fryer, kind of like a chicken skin chicharrones or chicharrones. Either way, that's always a good thing to do too. So I'm going to save those. Okay. This also gives you an opportunity to just check the meat, see if there are any freezer burn areas, which there are none on here, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'll go wash my hands. Beep, beep. Okay, so made an executive decision. I'm going to debone the chicken ahead of cooking because I got to thinking, I'd really rather have this just chunked up. So we're going to do that right now. And here, best way to do that is just to use your hands, kind of get in there and find that bone, find all the connective tissue around it. And since we're going to be cutting this up anyway, we don't have to worry about trying to get everything in one fell swoop. But it is always good if you can get as close to the bone without taking a little of the bone with you. So I'm going to chunk this up into bite-sized pieces so that as we're eating it, it's a lot easier to work with. So again, you can buy the boneless, skinless, so it's already deboned. A little easier on the prep time, but it's also a little costlier. So if you're trying to buy in bulk and have a, be attentive to your budget, this is a great way to do it. And something to keep in mind, you can hold on to these and use them to make your own chicken stock if you feel like doing that. I'm sure there's a more efficient way to debone a chicken thigh. If you happen to know, please send me a comment and then a link to the video would be fabulous. Okay, so now I'm going to chop these up into bite-sized chunks. And then I can get rid of any of the excess connective tissue that we may not want, or like the skin. And we will use that for our chicken stock as well. Now you might note that I'm using a different cutting surface because I don't want to use the raw, or to be cutting any raw meats on our wood. And this is what we use for that. Keep it a little more sanitary. And it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it. Just be sure you're not using the same surface for both your raw meats and your raw veg, or cooked veg, or anything for that matter. Feel a little bit with the machine deboned or the machine processed chicken. Sometimes the machine will chop parts of the bone, so as you're feeling through here, just feel for anything that's kind of hard and get rid of that, because it's way easier to get rid of it now than trying to spit it out from your mouth when you're trying to have manners while you're eating. Plus, someone could choke on that, and that would be very terrible. Okay, so we have our freshly chopped up chicken. I'm gonna put that over here. We're gonna add the coconut cream and the chicken. In fact, I'm gonna do the coconut cream first. So there is a difference between coconut milk and coconut cream. Because we're in the lower carb, totally okay with good fats. Don't use the light. But coconut cream itself is already going to be thicker, so just be sure you see cream and not so much milk, even if it says full fat milk. It just won't be as creamy. And you will understand why we want it to be creamy when you try this. It is going to be delectable. Wish you could smell it. Okay, so we're gonna add that. Stir this bad boy around. And then we'll add our chicken. Okay. All right, so our chicken's going in. So this says give it about 8 to 10 minutes to really just cook up. We want to see that that looks nice and white and has a good texture to it, so no longer feels raw. And we'll be back in about 8 to 10 minutes. All right, so we've sliced up our mushrooms. We're gonna go add that to our mix, and then the shrimp. Oops, dogs get that. It's just a mushroom. I think that's okay for dogs. They'll probably just spit it out anyway. All right, here we go. Add these in. Nice, nice, nice. Give them a cover. Okay, and then our shrimp. Now it says 8, but we're using 10 because we're a little extra like that. So these are all deveined and detailed, I guess. Because who wants that tail? I don't know why people cook with that and they expect you to bite it off and deal with that. It's just kind of gross. We're not going to do that to ourselves. We'll be back in about 5 minutes once these have had a chance to mingle and show us what this soup is all about. All right, so a little trick I've learned to make sure you get as much juice out of a lime or a lemon or even an orange as you can if you're going to be juicing it, is just give it a little hard pressure. And we're going to chop this open. We're going to look at getting a good tablespoon out of this. Then we might even use the rest for a garnish. Okay, let's turn this down. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. Now you can add a bit more of your curry paste if you would like. If you're a little bit less on the mild side than I am. Might get a tablespoon out of it. So while I'm doing this, it's reminding me of how important grip strength is in your life, not only in the kitchen, but just in life in general. So very important to have very strong hands, a strong grip. It's actually quite an indicator of how we're going to age and how well we age. Fun fact. So in our low carb cooking, we try to go with a lower carb sweetener. The one I prefer, some people don't, but the one I prefer is monkfruit. So I'm gonna try to pour this in here because we are definitely not using our little spoon to go in for it. I'm gonna use a bit less than the recipe calls for because I already find coconut cream to be kind of sweet, but that's just our preference. Just because it's low carb sweetener doesn't mean you can use a ton of it if you are trying to keep your carbohydrates low. Oops. Okay, now we need a tablespoon of each of these. And one. Whoops, that was quite a bit. I'm not going to put all that in there. I was rushing myself, so I'm going to leave a little bit out because we don't want to be tasting too much of that. Now we're going to give this a nice good stir and then let it sit and mingle for a bit longer. And I'll be back to check in a few moments. All right, so now we're going to taste our broth. See how all those flavors have mingled. It's not very hot, like spicy, so I could definitely add a bit more of the curry, which I might in just a moment. Let me let it blend together a little bit longer. So let's add our garnish in here. A little bit of cilantro. One neat thing about Thai food is the freshness. I just love it. So because we want to be a little artistic, we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so here is our finished soup. So hopefully you can see that nicely. Can you see that? Okay. All right, let's see how it tastes now. A little bit of chicken. Hot and not spicy, just hot temperature wise. But it's very, very good. And like I say, you can add a little bit more on the spicy side to whatever your preference is. But until next time, take good care of yourself and each other. Bye for now. Oh my gosh, I found the driest lime available. It's literally getting no juice whatsoever.